All right, what is up, people? Welcome back to Blue Chip Prospect for another podcast. Today, I thought that I would just go through the 2023 draft and identify some risers and some fallers. Obviously, identifying fallers at this point is a bit rough because any player who had a bad season this year could eventually just pop back up next season and all is forgiven and all is forgotten. So identifying a faller is a bit harder, but identifying riser is a little bit easier because if they had a okay season last year, but this season they have a big year and they exploded offensively or anything like that, well, it's easy to identify and it's easy to say that this person is tracking in the right way, right? I know it's a little bit premature since it's the 2023 draft. It hasn't been a full year yet, but even though it's premature and we always say like you gotta wait 5 years to know who win the draft and whatever, it's not about winning the draft. It's about identifying players who are doing better than expected, who are doing better than where they were drafted, like just getting value where you drafted the player. So yeah, a bit premature, but still I think it makes sense. All right, so the top 4 kind of stays the same. And by the way, I'm not going to be talking about every single player because this would be like it would never end. So I already went through and I identified some risers and some fallers. It's way too many players anyway, so it's going to take a while. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll just go faster at some point to move over, but we'll see how it goes. And I'm going to start with one that isn't really a riser in the draft per se, but a riser from my board. Like, it's a player that I had at number 12 last year, and that player is David Reinbacher. And obviously, he's not a riser because he's been picked at number 5, right? And there's no way he's better than the players in front of him, right? But from my board, where I had him at number 12, he's definitely a riser because the start of the season was rough. I think every Habs fan knows it by now. Like, everybody who watched him, who read about him, I think they know that the start of the season was a bit rough. But overall, like, once he got past that little patch of rough hockey, it went pretty well. It went actually more than pretty well. It went excellent. I know the team was bad, and I know they weren't scoring like at all. They were just horrible. But it's not just the team, it's the whole organization that had problems. But on the ice, if you just take what Reinbacher was doing on the ice, he was doing very good. He was doing everything that you expect from a high pick, a high defensive pick. Like, he's not a high-end puck-moving defenseman. That's not going to happen. I don't think he's ever going to be a first power play type of guy. He doesn't really have the vision or the skill for that. But he's a great skater. He's a big guy. He defends really well against the rush and even when the attack is established. And he's also really, really good at taking the puck out of the zone, whether he's skating it or by passing it just a couple steps out of behind the net and the pass like through the neutral zone. He's really, really good at it. He plays physical, and even if he doesn't play physical one night or against a rush or something like that, he's really good at overwhelming players and just getting the puck from players. He's been fantastic. I'm one of the person who hasn't been high on him like at all, but the more I watch him and the more I like him. And I'm trying to keep in perspective the fact that he was playing on a horrible team. So now that he's coming to Laval, it's going to be like a good way. It's going to be much better to evaluate. We're going to see a little bit more what Reinbacher actually is when he is within a team with a good coach, good teammates, and a great environment, and with good development coach to help him get better. But from what I've seen in Cloton, he was just really, really good. There's no other way to see it. There's no other defensemen from last year that I've seen this year that were better than him. I think some might be close, but it's all different environments, so it's hard to judge. But what I'm saying is that David Reinbacher, even though he doesn't have great production, and if you look at the stat sheet, you're like, wow, this is like, it's not a bust, but it's not a great pick. But the reality is that if you actually watch the player play, he's been really, really good. Offensively and defensively, he was doing everything, but there was nobody to finish. So there's that. All right, so that was my little parenthesis. Is that how you say that in English? A parenthesis about Reinbacher, saying that he's not necessarily a riser because he was picked number 5, but he's a riser from my board. Like, I would have him in the top 10 right now. Maybe something like maybe 7. I don't know. I haven't paid. I didn't actually did that thing where I place players somewhere in the top 10, so I don't know. But it would be in the top 10 for sure. One player that is definitely a riser from where he was picked, and I think everybody knew it at the time that he was picked there, and that's Matvei Michkov. There's no other way around it. What he's doing in the KHL is absolutely nuts. It's the best D+1 season ever, just like he had the best D-1 season ever, or the best draft season ever. Like everything that he does it better than it was ever done before. When he went to the U18s at like 15 years old, everything that he's done, everywhere that he's been the best there ever was. So, I mean, that projects pretty well. Some things hasn't changed. Like obviously, if we talk about his skating, which is still powerful enough on short distance, but isn't a fast skater when you need to go through the neutral zone, something like that. And he's not more engaged defensively. If I'm not mistaken, he was even scratched at some point in the season, and that's a guy that's almost a point per game in the KHL. Like if I actually take a look at his stats, give me 1 second. Yeah, exactly. He has 41 points in 47 games as a draft +1 in the KHL. That's ridiculous, right? Obviously, there's other players who were close to that. I think, who was it? Was it Eli Tolvanen who was close to that or something like that? I think so. Different strength, obviously. But anyway, what I'm saying is that almost a point per game in the KHL as a draft +1. You will scratch because the engagement that he has on the ice. When it goes to the defensive part of the game, and I know there's some people who are really, really big fans of him, and I'm a big fan of him, but I'm capable of seeing without like rose glasses and without any bias. I see that his work on the forecheck, his work in the defensive zone is close to zero. Right? So there's no other way around it. But he scores a ton. He produces a lot of points. He's just as good a playmaker as he is a shooter now. He's really, really good. He's always the smartest player on the ice. It's just the way that it is. And what he is doing for the last 3 and 4 years in terms of production is just like never seen. So, I mean, yeah, there's that. So he was picked at 7, and obviously he should probably go higher than that. I think he's gonna end up somewhere, maybe the 3rd, maybe the 4th best player. It depends how much he's willing to get better. If he's not willing to get better, then he's gonna score goals, but he might be in negative value, like the first decade of Ovechkin. So we'll see. All right. After that, I have Dalibor Dvorsky, and it's a player that I got less and less. How can I say that? Like less and less hyped about him last season. But now he's getting better and better. And something that I forgot to do is to open my actual list from last year. And where was it? It was... I don't remember what it was, so I can't open it. So anyways, Dalibor Dvorsky is still 18. He has great size. He can play with finesse as much as much as he can play heavy on the puck. He has a crazy good shot. He has very good stats. If I open his page, he has 82 points, 40 goals in 49 games in the OHL for the Sudbury Wolves. So, I mean, just a crazy progression from last year. Not that his stats were necessarily bad, but he was not consistent last season. He still did good, and when you watch the U18, he was lights out in the U18, and even in the U20, he was good. But the Allsvenskan, he was so-so, and he was a little bit, not so-so, he was just a little bit inconsistent in the way he played. So it's not the end of the world, but this year he's been really, really good. Again, at the U20, he was very, very good, but like I said, the production right now is just so good that, I mean, even though he was picked number 10, is that number 10? Yeah, he was picked number 10. He still deserved to move up a couple spots. Maybe I'd put him in front of somebody like Reinbacher or somebody like Simashev, like toe-to-toe with Leonard. Because Leonard, too, is having a great season. I wouldn't move him up. He was number 8, so I think it's perfectly fine. But Dalibor Dvorsky, number 10, I think he deserves to go in the top 10 a little bit more towards like 7 or 6 or something like that. A very good season. After Dalibor Dvorsky, I have Tom Willander. Not a riser per se, but at least not right now. But I would not be surprised if in the end he ended up the best defenseman in this draft. He has, like, his skating is crazy good. His production right now is on par with players like Sanderson and McAvoy. I don't think he has the same offensive intelligence that they do, but it could get there, and he has the production to prove that he's close to that, or not close to that, but he has the production to prove that he belongs in that conversation. But defensively, he's very physical. He's very good at blocking the blue line. He's very, very good. Even with the puck, to break the puck out, he's really good. But he's such a high-end skater, and he's such a high-end competitor that it's the type of player that what he is now is not the end product, and we're not even close to the end product, because he looks like a player that just wants to get better and better and better. If you watch last season, just the way he was at the beginning of the season and what he was at the end of the season when he was drafted, they were two completely different players. And now, even then, when he started the season, started pretty slow, and now he's just really, really good again. So it's like every season he goes from okay to the level he's playing to really good to the level he's playing. So yeah, overall he's just fantastic. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he became the best defenseman in this draft. I'm not saying that he will. I'm not saying that it's a sure thing, but I'm saying that because of his toolkit and because there's no like high-end defenseman or elite defenseman like there is this year, I think it's a possibility. That's all I'm trying to say. Okay, I'm not trying to destroy your hopes or vex people. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm just saying that it's a possibility. All right. After Tom Willander, I have Zach Benson, and I think everybody saw this one coming. It's not news to anybody. Zach Benson was taken. Let me open his page. He was taken number 13 overall by Buffalo. He's 18 years old still. He's playing in the NHL. He played 59 games. He has 23 points with 9 goals. He's playing on the PK a little bit. He's playing on the power play a little bit. It's not a lot of time, but still he's there playing. So they trust him enough to put him on the PK and on the power play at 18 years old as a 5'9" player. So that's how smart and how combative and competitive he is. But at the same time, like, nobody expecting him to be this good this quick. Obviously, like, nobody was like he's gonna play in the NHL next year. The guy's 5'9", not the greatest skater. The skating's a little bit wonky, but we all knew that he was a high-end, if not elite competitor, and he was a high-end, if not elite thinker of the game. Whether it's defensively or offensively, he was gonna make things happen. But nobody knew that it would be this quick, and that at 18 years old he would be playing in the NHL. Everybody thought he would go back to the WHL, but it is what it is. Is it going to keep going this way? Is he going to play in the NHL next year? Sometimes they like do the yo-yo with this thing, so we'll see. But nonetheless, 23 points I said that he had? Something like that? Yeah, 23 points in 59 games. Like, that's really, really good for a guy of that size at that age. So, yeah, what a pick at number 13, really. It's definitely, like, everybody had him in their top 10. A lot of people had him outside of their top 10 in the mock draft, because we all understand how NHL teams draft, and they draft for size, they draft for easy projection, they draft for playoffs. So sometimes the smaller player, they fall, but I feel there's types of players that even if they're smaller, it doesn't really matter. Like, if you take a player like Zach Benson, the guy is working so hard, and he's so skilled and so smart. Like, it's easy to project as much as a 6'3" player who's not as good but still good. No, I don't know. I don't know if I'm making sense is what I'm saying, but I feel like Zach Benson is the type of player that's so easy to project and that had the tools to make it happen and project and just translate to the NHL pretty easily. But it looks like not because he fell to 13. Anyway, next one, Axel, Sandin, Pellikka. In terms of production in the SHL, it's the best production in the last 25 years. He's not a big guy, so obviously sometimes, especially for defensemen, it's very hard to translate that to the NHL. So we will see how it goes. But even then, the production, when I say he has the best production in the last 25 years in the SHL, because he has 18 points, 10 goals in 39 games, which is very, very good. But it's to take with a grain of salt, because in the end, like, there's players with the same exact production, less goals but more assists, like Victor Soderstrom, who at 23 years old, they're still in the AHL and not necessarily close to break to the NHL. Like, they could probably play on the third pair, but like it's not exactly what you're trying to get when you especially Soderstrom, because he was picked higher. But Axel Sandin Pellikka, he deserves to move up a couple spots in my opinion, because even though he's smaller, even though the production is good, but doesn't necessarily mean that much. Like, he had a lot of skills already last season. He was already a good skater. He was not the best defender, but he was defending okay, I would say. I think it's still the same thing. He's still not my favorite player, but I take the production and I take what he has in terms of skills, and I feel like 16. Is it 16? Is that what I said? 17. Pick 17. I think obviously it's a type of player that should probably go over a player like maybe like over Wood or over Hanzek. Like, both players that would easily take Sandin Pellikka over them, but like not too much. Yeah, I know a lot of people are excited with the production, but like, take it with a grain of salt. At least that's my opinion. All right. After Sandin Pellikka, I have Oliver Bonk, and Oliver Bonk is having a crazy, fantastic season. He's producing a ton, and he doesn't do it. How can I say that? Like, to the detriment of his defense? Is that how he say that? Like, he's not putting aside his defense to produce offense. Like, we all know he was capable to play defensively. It was obvious last season. He was already very, very good in the OHL, playing defensively. But now he took like a big notch, and he's playing very well offensively. He's playing on the power play. He has 24 goals in 58 games, so he has, like, obviously the shot is good. The shot and the placement is good actually, but he's just becoming more complete. Like, last year we knew he was good defensively. This year we know that he has another layer to his game where he can play offensively also, but without destroying his defensive game. Like if you compare with, let's say, Sandin Pellikka from that we just talked about, like, Oliver Bonk to me is a better player. Even though Pellikka is, I think the production probably translate better since it's the SHL, probably translate better to the NHL, but in the end, he's still a smaller player, and I think Oliver Bonk is a more assertive player, a better defensive player, and he has the same type of offense. So definitely a type of player that should be picked in the top 15 if there was a redraft or something like that. So yeah, he also moves really well. Like, last year I thought he was a good skater, but I didn't think he was like a great skater. I still don't think he's a great skater, but he moves better than expected, especially on the power play. He was really good at opening lanes for passes and for shots on net. And I mean, it's pretty obvious. He has 24 goals. So yeah, all right. After that, we have Gabe Perreault, and a bit like who is it? A bit like Zach Benson, maybe not to the same extent, but a bit like Zach Benson. When I say we, I mean most people knew that this was probably what was going to happen, where he was going to be picked in a 20 and then he would produce like crazy. Like, sometimes I feel like teams might overthink the draft a little bit. I understand players have weaknesses, but if a player is breaking records in the US NTDP, maybe it's worth taking before the 20th. What was it? I'm just gonna open it. Before the 23rd pick. Like, the guy was breaking Matthews' record and stuff like that, and he was taken 23rd. I know he's not a big guy whatsoever. He's 5'11", but he's also very, very light and frail. Okay, it's just the way that it is. But he works hard. He's a hard-working player defensively and offensively. He tracks back every time the puck gets out of the offensive zone. He tracks back and apply back pressure all the time. He's never just gliding. He's always there pushing. So if you take his production, and the guy right now has 50 points in 30 games with 15 goals, that type of production is the type of production you don't usually get at 23. He's producing just as much as Will Smith, who was a top 4 pick. So that type of value that you want to have at 23. But I guess that was a lucky pick, or they just knew what they were doing. But anyways, one of his strengths is that he's always the smartest player on the ice. Like, yes, he has a lot of skills. He has very, very good hands. He has a sneaky good shot, very good vision, very good passer, but he's just extremely smart. And like I said last year about him, is that he always puts himself in the right position to receive the puck and send it back to somebody else. He's like a transition, a passer transition. And this year he opens different layers where he's even better at passing the puck and creating the plays by himself to open space for others. He's not just like the facilitator anymore. He's capable to actually make plays and create open space for other player on his line to score goals. So that's why the 35 assists in 30 games in the NCAA. As an 18, is he 18? Yeah, he's still 18. So as an 18-year-old. So what a pick. I had him 10 in my list last year, and I think he still deserved that spot. He's just that good. All right, to the next one. After that, I have Quentin Musty. It's another player that, like, where was he picked? Sorry, I was like lost for a second. He was picked 26. Okay, and the guy is producing at a crazy clip. He has 92 points, 39 goals in 50 games. Like, okay. And it's not like the guy has a ton of it's not like he's a 5'9" player who can't skate. The guy is a 6'2", 200 pounds player. He skates pretty well. He's not the smoothest player out there. He's not the most powerful skater out there, unless when he decides that he is. Like, he's never going to be the fastest, and I say he's not necessarily a powerful skater, but sometimes he just decides, okay, today I'm a powerful skater, and I cut to the net, and I just lean on people and get to the middle. Some nights it's not like that. Some nights it's like that. So it really depends for him. And it was the same problem last year, and probably why he was picked this late is the fact that he was not consistent in the way that he played. Some night he was a finesse guy, just playing on the perimeter, playing on the outside, trying to make plays to the inside or shooting from the outside. But he was not driving the inside consistently by himself. That's the difference with this year, is that he does it a lot more consistently, and he has the body, he has the power, he has the strength, he has everything to get there. He has smooth hands, he has the shot, he has the passing skills, and when he wants, he has the skating to get to the middle and lean on people. So, I mean, you get that at 26, and I mean, I loved him a lot last year already. Now I just love him even more. So there's that. But yeah, and I mean, when he still has a little bit of problem with consistency. Like I said last year, it was more like he was not always playing in the middle, and it's a bit the same thing this year, but it's not as bad. He's a lot more consistent, but he still has some problems. But when he's on like a top 10, top 7 pick. When he's off, well, he's a number 26 pick. But the thing is that he's on way more often than he's off. So you gotta take that bet. So yeah, I think a really good pick by San Jose at 26 for Quentin Musty. After Musty, I have Calum Ritchie. I think everybody saw that one coming too. Like back to back, Musty and Ritchie is kind of madness in my opinion. Like one at 26 and one at 27. Especially since Calum Ritchie is a center. He was already a very, very good passer, a bit like Quentin Musty. He had problem with consistency, but not necessarily problem with consistency in the way that he played. It's more his production was inconsistent. It's not necessarily like his will to play hard and his will to get to the middle or make plays to the middle or something like that. It's just the production wasn't consistent, right? But I still had him. Like, I made a video about top 10 playmakers last year before the draft, and I had him in my top 10 playmaker because he was that good. So sometimes you gotta look at the tool and not just the production and figure out that if the guy is 6'2", he flies on the ice for his size. Maybe the production is not as consistent as you want it to be, but if he's passing the puck like that, if he has the skills to get it through traffic or send it to the middle of the ice or play in the slot by himself, and I mean, obviously he has the physique for it. I mean, at some point you gotta take that chance, right? So, yeah, Calum Ritchie again at 27 is a little bit. It's just insane. Obviously, the thing is that it's easy to say now because we're 1 year later and he has 76 points in 48 games, but last season he had 59 in 59. So, like I said, it's easy to say now that we should have taken him earlier, but most people didn't have him earlier. Most people, like, I don't remember exactly where I had him. I think I had him in my top 20, but I can't be sure 100% because I cannot open it here where I am. I have it on my other computer, but not here. But yeah, anyway, one way or another, 27 is just madness. Big body, big center, flies on the ice, fantastic season, tons of skills, great playmaker. What else do you want? All right. So good pick by Colorado right there. After that, I have Easton Cowan. I mean, it's pretty simple. When there's a player on the London Knights that is producing at a decent clip and is having great playoffs, you just take that bet. It's that simple. I don't know what's up with that team, but they're so good at developing player. It's just whenever you have the chance to pick a player from the London Knights, you just do it. You take that bet every single time. You're practically sure to end up with an NHL player. They're going to prepare him, they're going to mold it for you, and you're going to have an NHL player when he gets into your hand. So it's that simple. But a crazy season, 92 points in 52 games for Cowan. He had crazy playoff last year. Not that he was the most productive. He had 21 points in 20 games, but he was just everywhere on the ice and he was playing hard. Even though he's not the biggest player, he's like 5'11" or something. Yeah, 5'11". He played hard and he played heavy and he was really everywhere on the ice, defensively, offensively, and I'm sure that's one of the big reasons why Toronto picked him in the first round, because without his playoff, I think there's no way he was going to be a first-round type of player. But with the playoff that he had, he made his place in the first round. And now, well, he's proven that he was a first-round talent because obviously 92 points, 32 goals in 52 games is pretty great production. And it's not just the production, it's the way he plays too. He's so energetic, he's so competitive, he plays hard, he has very, very good hands. Like when I was watching Dickinson, him and Barkley, is it Barkley or Barkey? I never remember his name. But him and Barkley, they were like, they make plays every shift they play. Like you look for Dickinson, but all you see is Ethan Cowan and Devin Barkley. Is it Devin Barkley? I think that's his name. Anyway, I'm gonna have him later, so I'm gonna see his name and I'm gonna remember it at some point. But yeah, Ethan Cowan, he was picked. Where? Was picked number 28. Again, another great pick by Toronto. That sucks. After that, I have Bradley Nadeau, who was picked by Carolina. He was picked number 30. And it's another guy that I had in one of my videos last year in my top 10 shooter. And obviously, like the best shooter was Bedard by far. It's not even comparable. But the one player that I was the most impressed with his shot, the versatility of his shot, and also how heavy and fast and just accurate and just the velocity was just dangerous, it was Bradley Nadeau. When I was building the video, the top 10 shooters, and I was getting clips to make the video to talk about Bradley Nadeau, I was having so much fun. Like you could see his shot was definitely NHL ready. Like the rest is not. The guy is 5'10", 170 pounds. He's doing well in this NCAA, but the shot was definitely already NHL level. It was crazy good. Obviously, to make it to the NHL, you need more than just a shot, and especially when you're a player at 5'10", 170 pounds, it gets harder to make it. But the guy, he plays in the NCAA, University of Maine, and he has 45 points, 19 goals in 35 games. So overall, it's a great production. It's a very, very good production. But obviously, it's going to be harder for him to translate with that type of body. He's not the greatest skater also. He's a good skater, maybe a little bit above average, but yeah, it's a bit hard sometimes at 5'10" to translate your game to the NHL. But with a shot like that and the way he always finds a soft spot on the ice to get that shot off, I think he's going to make it, and I think he deserves to be higher than a number 30 pick. But we can always be surprised by players who do well in the NCAA, that are a smaller player, that have one attribute that stands out more than anything else. You know, sometimes if we think just about the Habs, like Newhook, I think he had a very good season in his draft +1. He was definitely over a point per game. I don't remember what was the production, but he was over a point per game, and his standout skill wherever he played was always his skating. Like, his skating was elite compared to everybody else. So he made it very good in the NCAA, comes to the NHL, and he's a good player. He's not a great player. Do you even want this player on your top 6 if you're a competitive team? I'm not sure about it. We'll see where it goes in the future. But after the first season, I would say no. We'll see how it goes, like I said, in the future. But I see it a bit the same way with Bradley Nadeau. Not that they are like the same type of player, but players that have one big strength and they have to build their whole game around it. So we'll see where Bradley Nadeau goes. But nonetheless, great production. Picked at 30. Yeah. Really good. And like I said, when I built that top 10 video, he was the guy I was the most impressed with outside of Bedard. His shot was just so devastating. All right. So after Nadeau, we have Gavin Brindley. And sorry, another guy that is like a little spark plug of energy on the ice. He's always moving, crazy motor. He's a little spark plug of energy, but he's another guy that's small. He's 5'9", 170 pounds, I think. In terms of production, he had a very, very good season. He had 51 points in 36 games with 24 goals. Like, already last year, he had 38 points in 41 games. So, but a lot of people thought it was okay because he plays with Fantilli. He's having great production. Now Fantilli's not there, and he's still having an even better production. Went to the U20 and has 10 points in 7 games with 6 goals. So he's doing something right. And I mean, the couple of times that I watched Michigan this season, which is not a ton of time, I watched him like maybe 2-3 times because I like to just follow up on players. But he was the best player on the ice. And we're talking about a team that has McGorty, that has Nazar, that has Casey. So it's a team that's still packed with players that were taken high in the draft, especially McGorty and Nazar. And I mean, and even when you think about it, McGorty and Nazar are also a year older. They're in their third season, I think, second season, third season, something like that. But anyway, they're draft +2. They're not draft +1 like Brindley. And Brindley, every time, the times that I've watched, he was the best player on the ice, no questions asked. So, yeah, he's a bit like, he's like Nazar, but even better. so a little bit same type of player without, I think Nazar is a better skater, but still, same type of player, just better. All right, after that, I have... And I wasn't sure about that one, but maybe Casper Halttunen. Like, maybe. The thing with Casper Halttunen is everything revolves around his size and his shot. Like, he's not a great passer. He's not a distributor. He's not necessarily the smartest player on the ice. You kind of have to make the space for him. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying is that he's not necessarily the guy that has the skating or the will to create his own space. Like, sometimes he does for some reason. Like when I watched him at the U18, like last year. Yeah, I think it's last year. Yeah, it was last year. Yeah, I think so. Anyways, when I watched him there, consistently, night after night, was using his body, getting to the middle, and trying to make plays by himself, making all the space himself. Sometimes when I watch him with London, it looks like a little bit more. He's more static. He's more like waiting for other players to create the pockets, and then he goes into it and he shoots with his one timer. So, not that it's bad, because honestly, that's what you want him to do anyway. That's basically his strength, is to actually shoot the puck. So that's what you want him to do. But it would be better if he actually worked harder to create his own space, but maybe he just doesn't have the skill or the mind to do it. But one way or another, when you have a guy that has that type of one-timer and shot overall, and 6'3" body, and you got him, I think, second round, 36 overall, it's still extremely good value. I would have him in the first round. I had him in the first round in my ranking, but I didn't have him high. I had him like something like 30 or something like that. And I think now he deserves to be probably a top 25 pick, maybe something around that. Not that he moved by a crazy amount, but he would move up by like 9, 10, maybe 12, 13 spots, something like that. All right. So anyway, after Halttunen, the next one is, and that's my boy, Andrew Crystal. And I mean, I would be a little bit disappointed if he was not in that list, because I had him at number 8 last season. So I don't know if there's a single person who had him in their top 10. It's a bit risky, obviously. It's just, he's one of my favorite players to watch ever, so I'm gonna keep like beating the drum for him for as long as I can. And he's doing really, really well anyway. So he's the same player that he was. He's just more aware defensively now. He's also a little bit more powerful in his skating. I'm not saying that he's faster in his skating, but a little bit more powerful, less Mohawk stride, 10-2 type of stride all the time. So yeah, I think he's working on that, actually. He knows that his skating is going to be a make or break for him. But when you take the skills, when you take the hands, the misdirections that he sends constantly, and the shooting and the passing, he's just, overall, the package is incredible. He's not a big guy, so that's going to be a problem if he cannot work on his skating. But because obviously 5'10", if you can't skate well, it's going to be a big problem, and you might not even make it no matter what the skill level is. But if he keeps working on it, and he keeps working on his defensive awareness and working harder along the boards and stuff like that, it's going to help him a lot. And the rest is just natural for him. Like the skill level, like there's a reason why for me I had him 8 in my ranking last season, is because the skill level is just crazy. Like the playmaking and the shooting is incredible, but there's also the fact that he's sending fakes and misdirection like constantly. Like whenever he's skating with the puck, or he has the puck on his skate, you never know if he's shooting or if he's passing. And every pass and every shot are like offbeat. Like, I tried to explain it last year, and I couldn't really find a way to explain it well. But it's always like, you know something is coming, but you never know when it's coming. And with him, when you think it's coming, well, it's never at that time. Like his shot, there's always a delay in his pass. There's always a delay in his shot that like fools the goalie or fools the defenseman trying to bat down the puck or something like that. So just an incredible player. But like I said, he needs to work on his skating. He needs to work on working harder along the board and deep in the corners, even though it's never going to be he's never going to be the one who go retrieves the puck deep on a dump and chase, right? I don't think he's ever going to have the speed for it, and he's never going to have the body for it. So that's not going to be his game. His game is going to be to create for others and shoot the puck on net. So, and that is, we will be able to do it for sure, because he has the hands, this playmaking, and the shooting. But like I said, he's got to work on the rest because he's too small, right? But anyway, like I said, I had him number 8, and he was picked at number 40. So unless he had a horrible season, there was no way he was not going to be on this list. So it is what it is. But I would definitely take him top 20. Yeah, no questions asked. All right. After my boy Crystal, it's Carson Rehkopf. And this one is a little bit... took me a little bit by surprise last year, because by the end of the season, and by the time we got to the draft, the guy had a lot of traction. Like he was getting talked about a lot, and everybody was like, can I say that? Like seeing him a little bit more. He was, I don't know. It's just like people were more aware that he existed by the end of the season compared to the middle of the season, and Yeah, and he was stuck like in the second round. He was stuck by at number 50. So I mean, that's pretty late in the draft for a guy that was this good, that was this big, that everybody saw coming by the end of the season how good he was. Like the thing is, the production was not like very very there. It was he had 59 points in 68 games. So it's not a great production, but if you actually watch the guy, which scouts do, obviously, at least I hope, he had 30 goals, which was a good indication. But the fact, like, he was not the best skater out there, obviously, but or he would have been taken earlier than that. But I don't know. It's just the guy was just he had such good hands, and his shot was just so heavy that you could see that the trajectory of the production was gonna go way up. Like number 50 is a bit pushing it for me. Like it's a bit low. The thing is, I don't think like he would have been like it's hard to say. I thought he was gonna go in the first round because of the traction he was getting, but the production didn't indicate a player that was gonna get in the first round. So there's that. But at the same time, the way that he played indicated a player that had the skills to be a first round player. So now, like I said, it's also easy to say it after the fact. And now that he had a 94-point season and a 52 goals on 58 game season, but outside of that, yeah, just crazy goal scorer, big body, isn't the greatest skater, but gets into position. I think it was a steal. Simple as that. Number 50 for that type of player, it's a steal. It doesn't mean it's gonna work, but at least there's a very good chance that he will because the production is getting better and better. The more production you have in junior, the better it is to project you in the NHL. It's pretty like simple. After that, I have two guys that I put together because they play in the same league. They're about on the same level in my opinion, and that's Felix Angar Surum and Oscar Fisker Molgard. Both players that I like. Both players that I'm not necessarily crazy about, but the fact that they both have a very, very similar production, it's like 0.46 or something like that point per game. So they both have the same thing. But anyway, in the SHL, like if we take, who's this one? This one is Felix. If we take Angar Surum, he has 15 points in 35 games. He's definitely a playmaker more than anything else. He's not a big guy. He's not also a strong guy, so that's gonna need to work. Like they're gonna need to work on that a lot to make it to the NHL at 5'11". But nonetheless, he's very skilled, great hands. He's very good vision to make plays happen on the ice. Overall, he was picked number 62nd. So 62nd, you have that type of production, 0.46 point per game in the SHL in your draft +2. It's a very good indication, even though he was small. And same thing for Oscar Fisker Molgard. If I go on his page, he's a little bit bigger at 6 foot, but he's also a free out player. He's not a strong player, and he has the same type of production. He has 21 points in 50 games. He has a little bit more goals. He has 9 goals, so he's a bit more of a shooter. He played very well, in my opinion, in the U20 for Denmark. It's kind of impressive. Not that he had a great production. He had 5 points in 4 games, so it's not great production. But overall, I thought he was pretty good. And just like Felix Angar Surum, I think they're both players that should move up in the draft because they were taken like at the very end of it. But not Molgard. Molgard was picked as 52nd, but Angar Surum was picked 62nd. So yeah, they need to move up a little bit. I would like change their place with. What's his name? Otto Stenberg. Yeah, I think that makes sense. After that, I have Riley Heidt. Riley Heidt, well, it's a guy that I had in my first round last year. He's a guy that I had in my top 10 playmakers for the draft. So he already had a crazy season. He's not the biggest guy, but he's not a small guy, and he's also like he plays very hard. So it's not like it was a problem. Like it's not like you look at a guy that's 5'11" and he's 160 pounds and you're like, how is he gonna make it to the NHL? He's gonna get crushed. Especially since I don't believe his skating was that great. I know there's some people who think his skating was very good. In my opinion, it was not great. Not great, but just average at best. but the production was there. He plays hard. He works hard. He did everything that you want a player to do. It's just it was a little bit hard maybe to find a role for him in the NHL. Like, what is he gonna be? If he can't skate super well, he's 5'11". Like, a lot of his plays were not necessarily NHL plays, but more like junior plays. So I understand that he's being picked like last in the second round, but he still had a 97-point season with 72 assists in 68 games. So I mean, it's a good indicator that something is gonna work out. And now he improved on that season by quite a lot. He has 114 points in 64 games with 34 goals. So he's a crazy good playmaker. He shoots well. Now he skates well. Also, he's not. I think he's a little bit over average. I wouldn't say he's a great skater at all, but I would say that he's a little bit over average. And the important thing is that he plays hard. And he plays heavy on the puck, and he goes into the corners, he goes on the board to battle, he goes to the middle, he goes to the net, he stands in front of the crease, and even though shouldn't be in front of the crease, he should be the one making plays and opening space for other, getting close to the defense and attract double coverage on himself. Sometimes he's at the net, and he's not scared to go there, and he plays physical, even though he's not the heaviest and the biggest guy out there. So 64th. I mean, I had him 19, so I think that's it. Yeah, I had him 19. I remember. So yeah, that's it. All right, that was it. Next one is Jacob Fowler, and I mean, what else does he need to do to prove that he was a crazy pick in the third round? Let me open his page to second. I think it's the third round. Yeah, it was picked 69th by Montreal. I mean, he has the best stats for a drafted goalie in the NCAA, all ages included. So it's not like, you know, and his stats are the same stats or very similar stats to players like Demko and Swayman in their draft plus one. So it's looking very, very good. I'm not a specialist of goalies, but one thing that I really like, outside of his personality, which is like the guy, he's a gem. Like, if you can watch the video of the Habs and everything that's been written about him and how nice he is as a person, he's just, I don't know, he just looks really, really nice as a person, and he looks extremely excited to be a Montreal Canadian. So that is cool. But outside of that, like I said, I'm not a specialist of goalies, but I love that he's extremely combative. Like in the playoff last year when he played with the Youngstown, the Phantoms, they win. I think they won last year in the playoff. No, I'm pretty sure they won. So, but he was fighting for pucks, even though like I don't think the technique was the best there is. I don't think he was always squared on the puck and stuff like that. So he needs to work on technique for sure. But that's why they have goalie coaches and stuff like that. But still, he was fighting hard. He was never like letting an easy goal go in. He was always trying to fight and get up and get into position and square up with the shooter or something like that. Just a smart, combative goalie. Like, outside of that, there's not much else I can say. Like, I think he was pretty athletic. I think he moves well from post to post. He didn't get down on his knee too fast or anything like that. But it's so hard for me to, like, I look at two goalies and I can barely find any difference. But when I look at him and I look at the stats, I feel like the way he plays kind of supports the stats. Like, he looks like a solid goaler. He looks like a goalie that will make it to the NHL in some capacity. What capacity, we don't know. But nonetheless, he has... honestly, I think of all the goalies that were drafted last year, whether it's Gajan and... what's the other one? Anyway, I don't remember their name though, but you know all the goalies that were picked. The one from the USHL was, what's his name? Anyway, sometimes I have like memory problems like that where I don't remember any names. But anyway, I think of all the goalies that were taken in the second round and third round last year, I think he's the best out of them. But that's just my opinion. Outside of that, that's about it for the players that were, how can I say that? Like the players that are risers, in my opinion. There's other players that are risers, but the thing is that if I talk about all of them, it's gonna take forever. But there's players like Hunter Brutstewicz, who has been so good offensively. It's not the same story defensively, but still, he was so good offensively. Mathieu Katafal has been really good. Cohen Zimmer, Juraj Perkachik, Adar Suniev. They're all players that were really good. Other players like Caden Price, Devin Barkey that I was talking about earlier. Rehkopf from Carolina. Is it from Carolina, Rehkopf? I think so. Bogdan Konyushka from the Habs, picked in the 4th round, who's playing like 22, 23, 24 minutes a night in the KHL. He was an overager, but still that. Jaden Lipinski is really good for where he was picked like in the 4th round, something like that. So very, very good. Luca Pinelli, Timur Mukhanov was a player that I really liked last year. He's doing really well, but he's a very, very small player, even though he's very combative and competitive. We'll see. And another player from the Habs, Philippe Eriksson, who's being so good in the Allsvenskan. So we'll see. We'll see. I think that's what it is for the players that are risers. Obviously, they won't all make it. That's normal. Like you look at them and you expect maybe 50% of them gets a taste of the NHL. Maybe like when you take not the one in the first round, but the one after the first round, maybe they like 50% of them will taste the NHL. So it's hard to evaluate, but I think that they are the ones that have the most chance to move up and be more valued than where they were picked. All right. So now let's go with the Fowlers. Is that how we say that? I think so. And one player that I don't think is a Fowler necessarily or per se, but he's not playing as well as you'd like him to play, but he's also not getting a ton of ice time. Like, it's very inconsistent. Some nights it's 19 minutes, some nights it's like 8 minutes, and that's Dimitri Simashev in the KHL. I'm just gonna move some things so I can look at their stats. Bring this one forward. Dimitri Simashev. Open the page. All right, so yeah, exactly what I was saying for the stats. He has 10 points, 4 goals in 63 games in the KHL. It's not great. It's not bad also, but it's not great. But the production was never his forte. Even last year, the production, he was not necessarily great. He had 10 points in 29 games in the MHL, but he had 6 points in 10 games in the playoffs. So there was that. But this year, he has 0 points in 7 games in the playoffs. So yeah, like I said, the production is not there, but the thing is that the package is just so good that I'm not, and also because I'm very high on him, so I'm a little bit biased. Like, he was my favorite defender from last year's draft, because when you take a guy that's 6'4" and he's an elite skater, he's not just a great skater or a powerful skater or something like that. He's just an elite skater, and the way he defends, he was so aggressive and he was just smooching players on the board and just overwhelming defense overall. But the offense was never a big part of his game. But the way he retrieved the puck deep in his own zone and send misdirections and fakes and just make people miss all the time and break out the puck easily, it was fantastic. But now with the production, I'm not sure he's going to be worth a 6th overall pick, but we'll see. Like I said earlier, with the Fowlers, the thing is that maybe they have a so-so season and then they can break out next season and all of a sudden they're back on track. So we'll see with him, but he has the tools to be back on track. Will he be back on track? I don't know. But when I made a top 10 defenseman prospect outside the NHL at the beginning of the season, I think I had him like 4th or 3rd or something like that. I had him really high. I'm not sure I would put him as high now, but I'm still very high on him. I still love him quite a lot. So not sure he's a Fowler, but he is just a little bit for now. After that, I have Nate Danielson, and the thing is with Nate Danielson, I never saw him as a top 10 player. To me, he was already. I had him, I think 26 or something like that. It was late in the 20s, so I think it's obvious by then that I was not high on him. He did not give me any reason to be higher on him, honestly. He's doing good right now with Portland. He has 37 points, 12 goals in 26 games. The U20s, 3 points in 5 games. But with Brendan Wheat, He's still 26, just like a point per game player. He's not. I don't know. There's something missing with him. Like even when I made my last year, I made a full scouting report on that guy, and like I did it because somebody asked for it. Like last year when I made a scouting report, sometime at the end of the video or at the beginning of the video, I was asking if you have anybody that you want me to do a scouting report on, just let me know and I'll make it. And somebody asked for Nate Danielson, and I think at the time he was like the only person who asked for a player, so I did it. I did not enjoy doing it. So I stopped asking after that because I was like, wow. And not that I don't like the player at all. It's just like obviously he's gonna have value for a team, and to me he's a bit like a little bit better and a little bit bigger Owen Beck. Okay? That's the way I see it. Like very similar player, but I think Danielson is maybe a little bit better. But if you got Owen Beck in the top 10. Would you be happy with that? I would not, for sure. I'm not even sure we got it at 33rd. So I'm not even sure I'm happy at 33. So I don't know. But yeah, I don't have a lot of things positive to say about him. So I'm just going to skip it. Like he's older than most. He's in his fourth WHL season. The production isn't great, even though it's getting better now with Portland Winterhawks. So sometimes from a team to another team, you get more production, but year after year, it's not like the production got better and better and better. Like it got better, but like by such a small margin that it's basically not noticeable. So yeah, but overall, like I said, like the guy's a 6'2". He skates well. He plays hard defensively. He gives all that he have all the time. I just think that he's limited in his playmaking. He's limited with his hands. He's limited in his shooting. He does everything well enough, but nothing is great. So do you want that in the top 10? In my opinion, no. But maybe Eiserman is right. So we will see about that. Another player that I think is a little bit of a faller, and that's Samuel Honzek. I had him at 25, and I feel like that's a little bit more appropriate. Like he was picked 16, I think. Let's just give me a second. Yeah, he was picked 16 by Calgary, and it was high at the time, and now I think people realize that. I think he's gonna be a valuable player because of his size, because of his puck protection, because of like the package overall is a good package, but he's not that guy that like I said. He's not a player that's very good offensively. Like he's not creating for others that much. He's not a great playmaker. He has a hard shot and he can get into position to get that shot off and can go close to the net. But that's about it. He's not. I don't know. I don't know. It's just like I liked him last year, but I liked him at 25. I didn't like him at 16. He's the type of player that you think is going to be probably a middle six player. Like he doesn't seem to have the type of skills to make it into a top six, or if he makes it, it's more as a complementary piece. But we never know. Maybe next year he explodes and he becomes a top six player. I don't know. But this year it's a little bit disappointing, and I feel like where I had him is a little bit more appropriate than where he was actually picked. After that, I have the intriguing Edward Shala. Already by the time we got to the draft, I was already confused and didn't really know what to make of him because it was so inconsistent. And now I'm even more confused because it's even more inconsistent now when the draft +1. He did not have a great season, even though he came to North America. If I open his page, he had 20 points in 25 games with the Barrie Colts. And he had 18 points in 24 games with the Kitchener Rangers. He did much better at the U20, where he was a point per game for Czechia. But in the OHL and last year for when he played with Kometa, it was just not great. Not that it wasn't great, just that last year wasn't great, but you could see the skill. This year, you can see even less of the skill, and it's also not great. Now he's a draft +1 guy who who has skills. He has significant skills. Who has skating. Who has size. Has a little bit of everything on his side, but doesn't have like the work ethic to make things like work. He's just not working hard enough. He doesn't get to the middle enough. He doesn't try to make plays enough to the middle. He stays on the perimeter way too much, and he doesn't. It's like he doesn't use his advantage. Maybe he's just not capable of putting it all together. Maybe he just doesn't have the hockey sense to make things happen and put his hands and his skating and his shot and his playmaking all together to create the player that he should be. I mean, that's some things that happen. Maybe that's his case. Or maybe next year he explodes. I don't know. But, yeah, I thought it was a great pick, honestly. At number 20, I thought they were picking a guy that had, like, top 15 skills that just had to put it all together. Now he hasn't put it all together. So what do you do? Well, he moves back because the production is not even a point per game in the OHL as a 19-year-old. So, yeah. Can have all the skills you want in the world if you're not capable of putting it all together and working hard enough to make things happen. Well, it's not going to happen. It's that simple. After that, I have Charlie Stramel. He's got to move down, and he's got to move way down. Yeah, I don't like to be negative about players, but man, this one is rough. It's crazy because before last year, like last year, it was evident that he was not going to be a great pick in the first round, even though I think even at the end I gave him like the last spot or something like that, or maybe I didn't. I don't remember, but I know I had him close to the first round because I was banking on the body and the shot. The fact that he plays very hard, was very physical. He was an okay skater. I thought so. And he had a hard shot, and he was 6'3", 200 something pounds. I was like, okay, that's good. And the year before, he was pretty good, I think, in the US NTDP. No, I think so. Yeah, he had 22 points in 26 games for the U18 national development team. So that was good. He played at the U18 also and had 5 points in 6 games. So overall, the production in the year before the draft was good. Now he went to University of Wisconsin in the NCAA, and he had 5 goals, 12 points in 33 games. So not fantastic, especially considering he was an October player, so he was already on the old side, so you were getting closer to what he was going to be physically and in terms of skills. And now he goes back to Wisconsin, and now he has 8 points, 3 goals in 33 games at the same university. So same type of game, same amount of game, 4 points less than an already underwhelming point production last season. So it's not looking great. It's hard to see what he's gonna be. Like right now, you can project him as a 4th line player. Maybe he gets it to the 3rd line, but the thing is that everything is based on his body and the hard shot. Like the skating, I thought it was okay last year. Now, like I saw him twice, I think, this year, and it was just okay. Let's say it was just okay at best. All right, after him, I have Otto Stenberg, and it's a player that was picked 25th, if I'm not mistaken. Let me open the page. Yeah, exactly. He was picked 25th by St. Louis. He had a tough season in the SHL, but much better in the Allsvenskan. Sorry, I just never know how to pronounce that league. Yeah, but overall, 6 points in 31 games in the SHL and 9-9 in the Allsvenskan. So, good production at a pro level, which is like the 2nd tier level in Sweden, but not great production in the SHL. Like both Felix Surum and Oscar Molgard, you know, that guy that I was talking about earlier, both had a much better production than he had at the SHL level. So there's that. But in the U20s, he did really well. He had 9 points, 5 goals in 7 games. So he did really well. And also when you look at the skill level, he's a skilled player. He has a hard shot. He has very good hands. He's a decent skater, not the best skater, but he's still a decent skater. He doesn't have big size. He's like 5'11", 170 pounds. But if you take his production and just like that, like you take another guy that was picked in the 6th round, which is Philip Eriksson, drafted by the Habs in the 6th round. he has a better production than Otto Stenberg has right now. So you can't say Otto Stenberg is the right pick at 25th. Like today, if I had to pick one or the other, Philip Eriksson or Otto Stenberg, I would still pick Otto Stenberg because the tools are better. Like he has much better hands, he has much better shot. I think offensively he plays a better game overall, and I think it will translate better to the NHL. But it's not great value if at 25 you get a player that produces less than a player that was picked in the 6th round. That's a bit the way that I see it. But overall, the tools are still there. He's still a good player. It's just meh. All right. All right, that's it for Stenberg. After that, I have Niko Majarovic. And it's a player that I actually liked last year. Like, I didn't fall in love with him, but I liked him quite a lot. He brings a lot of physicality and size. He plays really hard, plays very heavy. He's going to play defensively very well. He's going to go in the corner. He's going to go on the board. He's going to start the cycle. He's going to go retrieve the pucks on a dump and chase. He's going to do all the things that you want, but I feel that's exactly why they picked him. They kind of picked the profile instead of picking the best player available. And like I said, I don't necessarily believe in picking the best player available, like the absolute best player available, and not thinking about team building ever. I don't really believe in that. I think that at some point you got to think about who's going to go who and what you need. But the thing outside of that, I think that it's just they picked a player that was like the skill level was just too low for where they picked him, in my opinion. He's gonna play in the NHL, I'm pretty sure. I think he's also gonna be he's gonna have his role, so it's easy to identify a role, but it's harder to think that his role is going to be anything else or anything more than a 4th line player or maybe 3rd line player, but still a better pick than Charlie Stramel. After that, there's Adam Gajan, or whatever his name is. Tough season in the USHL. This guy, it's not great. He was the first goalie picked, if I'm not mistaken. He was picked 35th by Chicago. The stats are not great. He had point 893 and 3.40, so not great stats in the USHL, even though the USHL it's a bit harder. For some reason they don't have like great stats usually in the USHL, but those are pretty bad, but it is what it is. Goalies are goalies, so it's gonna happen. He has plenty of time to find his way back, but I don't know. That's all I have to say about it. After that, and the last one is going to be Brady Cleveland. Already last year, when he was picked in the 2nd round, I was having questions already because I don't know. It's like he didn't bring much. Like obviously he has the profile. He's if I open his page, I think he's 6'5". He's 6'5", 210 pounds. His skates okay. But he has absolutely no hands, no passing game, no, like, even though he's a fine skater, he doesn't have a skating game, he doesn't have a shot, he has nothing outside of I can smooch you on the board with my body. That's all he has. So he's going to have to make with it. And you see, if you look at this season in Wisconsin, he has 0 points in 16 games. So yeah. I think, overall, just not very good in terms of production. Neither this year or last year. It was just bad overall. So yeah, Brady Cleveland, I think he should go down a little bit. He was picked somewhere in the middle of the 2nd round, like 47. So not a great pick. But anyway, like I said, I feel that it's a bit harder to judge the players that are falling in the draft for the simple reason that like I was saying is that they can always just jump back and all of a sudden then their season is great compared to the players that are risers. While those they can, like, if they had a great season, let's say you take Calum Ritchie, he's having like 80 something points in 40 something games, like now he has that type of level of production in his game. Like he's not gonna fall back to under a point per game next year. He's just gonna get even better. So that's why I think it's harder to identify the fallers and the risers. But if not, that's about it. I don't know, maybe maybe I'll do this type of video for a couple draft, not video, but this type of podcast for a couple draft and see where it goes. Sorry if I was a little bit all over the place today for this one. There's a lot of background noise, and I get I get like my mind goes a little bit everywhere while I'm doing this, and there's noise in the back. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one. Peace.